Money is so emotional. There is a huge connection between personal well-being and savings and debt issues.
I definitely think it's very important to know how to manage your money because I've seen a lot of people get into debt and it's not easy to get out of. I think it's just a really hard road to start getting down.
Just because if you don't watch your expenses, you can easily just lose them all and just blow all your money that you have without reason.
By not managing our money well, by getting into debt, can have huge impacts on our well-being and that of our family and friends and the community. The community at large isn't going to do well if they have a whole society that is in debt, can't afford to buy homes, can't afford to pay it back into the community. So it's very, very important that we learn to manage our finances well.
In 2008, a study was published in the American Journal of Health Promotion that tested the association of health risk behaviors among college students and credit card debt. It showed that debt of at least $1,000 was associated with nearly every risk indicator tested, including obesity, insufficient physical activity, excess television viewing, infrequent breakfast consumption, fast food consumption, unhealthy weight control, body dissatisfaction, binge drinking, substance use, and violence.
From what I've seen, students either are generally adept at managing their finances or they aren't. And then you see the gamut in between. And I think even students who think that they're financially prepared, there's always more things to learn. Overall, I would say no, students are not prepared for the financial world. It's getting complicated.
I know how to manage money, but do I manage it? No. I love to shop more than I probably should, and I get away with it because my parents pay for everything.
I feel like I'm semi-prepared to manage my own money, but not fully.
I don't know if I am ready for real life to manage my own money yet, I guess.
There are a lot of pitfalls for college students, one of which is credit cards. Credit cards, we can just kind of look at credit cards as, buying something now and paying it off later. And to a lot of people that means, I don't have to think about it. I don't have to think about it till later. And I can get more credit cards if I max out on one credit card. So credit cards can be a real issue for students, especially when they're, they don't have a lot of disposable income and may need to rely on these cards.
Right now, not every month, but some months I do create some debt on my credit card. It usually, for me, happens towards the end of the semester if I didn't quite budget correctly in terms of taking out loans and how much money I'm going to be making. Then sometimes I will use the credit card a little bit there at the end to carry me through.
Doesn't everybody have credit card debt? Yes, I do.
A nationwide survey conducted by the Institute for Higher Education Policy indicated that while the majority of students use credit cards responsibly, there are some whose credit card use is putting them at risk. The survey found that close to 1 in 5 students report average balances of $1,000 or more on their credit cards. Of these students, 49% have 4 or more credit cards, and only 18% pay off their balances each month. Nearly 1/3 of these students have used credit cards to pay tuition and fees.
Student loan debt has now overtaken credit card debt nationally. So for students, student loans are also a huge problem. Often we don't think about, just how much of that loan is going to come due after we've graduated, and that might be a huge amount of debt and a huge amount that we have to pay back each month.
I have student loans from my freshman year and this year.
I did take out a subsidized loan thinking it was an unsubsidized. It was a $5,000 loan about 3 years ago, so I was still paying it off.
Oh yes, I've taken out a lot of student loans.
I do have a loan, and I think it's a subsidized loan, so I should know what that's about, but I think a subsidized loan means that, I couldn't give you a good example right now. I don't even know the definition of it, so I'm not too positive. Sorry, guys.
My understanding of the difference between a subsidized and unsubsidized loan, for the subsidized loans,
I have no idea. I don't.
A subsidized loan is the government takes care of basically your interest while you're in school. So I don't have to pay interest on my loan or start paying interest on my loan until I graduate, and then
Unsubsidized, you start accruing interest as soon as you take out the loan.
But for students, it's mostly credit card debt and it's loans. Here at the University of Utah, students have the lowest amount of debt as far as student loans go when they graduate, and that's about $21,000. And some students have upwards to $68,000 when they graduate, but the average here at the university is about $21,000. Students need to learn how to manage their money early on. The consequences for waiting until you're older, can cost you thousands and thousands of dollars down the road. I do know that there was a study done, a few years ago that addressed the issue of, of are adults better at managing their money if, as children, they got an allowance or not. And the results were mixed. It showed actually that that just because you got allowance didn't mean that you could manage your money when you became an adult. The key was what you had to do with that allowance as a child. Maybe we could get the message out to the community at large that there's good college savings plans out there. There are students too that need help, budgeting.
I actually don't have a budget that I actively use. If I had to go about making one,
I haven't created an actual budget plan, other than the fact that I just make sure that I have enough for rent each month and I have enough to pay the utilities and everything else, and I'm hoping that the rest of it kind of falls into place.
That's probably why I don't have a good one made. I mean, I've heard people talk about budgets and I can come up with something from there, but I don't have a real structure that I would turn to.
Broke means that's your budget. I used to, but now I'm just broke all the time.
When you know the basics of budgeting, that's great. But then there's other things that I think that students need to learn that they generally are unaware of, like being able to download your credit report for free. We're now able to do that. And, and the new credit card rules and how it applies to you and how you can read your bills better, things like that. So parents need to keep up on it, and then they need to pass it along to their children, and kids need to get it in school, and between the two they should be fairly well prepared for handling college when the time comes.
I feel like I am prepared to manage my money, but knowing more information would be good.
Come to the Personal Financial Management Center. We've got lots of ideas, we could do one-on-one counseling, and it's free. It's free for students to come.